It's now mid-November, and after a quiet week last week, we are now tracking two areas of possible development in the tropics. Granted, it's a low and medium chance of development, and they would not impact the area, the southeast here in Florida. But we could see some rain moving through the Caribbean, even some a storm developing out in the Atlantic as these two systems kind of move away. So tropics not done yet. So welcome into another edition of Tracking the Tropics. We got a few more to go, regular episodes here of Tracking the Tropics. We are live every Wednesday at 12:30, and that is the time it is right now, Eastern Time. I'm one of your hosts, meteorologist Amanda Hawley in the WFLA Weather Center, joined by WFLA meteorologist Rebecca Berry as well. Thanks for joining us today, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. I always like to take this time to remind you that this is an interactive broadcast, and if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, you can use our hashtags. That's how we're able to see your question, and hashtag Hey Rebecca or hashtag Hey Amanda, and there's one more.
Yeah, hashtag Hey Jeff. Today our featured meteorologist is Chief Meteorologist Jeff Edmondson from Wavy in Virginia. Thanks for joining us today, Jeff.
Of course, it's a beautiful day here in Virginia. We haven't had rain, at least we haven't had more than a quarter of an inch of rain in 32 days. So
wow.
There's no rain here. It's ridiculous. It's so dry. But hey, it's perfect to be outside for the stream.
That's right. Yeah, you have beautiful weather there. We have unusually gloomy weather here in the Sunshine State, but welcome also because we haven't had any rain either. It's just we're now starting to see some rain. So everybody around here is very thankful for that.
Yes. Yeah. Especially in Florida where there's a lot of rainfall, a lot of those daily thunderstorms. So you need the rain.
Yes. Yeah. We didn't see a ton of those over the summer. So, yeah, we're hoping for the rain this year as El Nino kicks off. And speaking of El Nino, we're starting to see that pattern develop now with some of these systems coming across the Gulf. And that's why we're seeing this unsettled pattern across the southeast right now. It's an area of low pressure developing in the Gulf. It's going to cross the state. And that's one of the areas of interest that we're looking at on this map for you on Tracking the Tropics. I just want to kind of break down what we're looking at right now for you guys. And we'll just jump right into it here and zooming in on this area. What we're seeing happen, there's an area of low pressure in the Gulf. We're going to see kind of another little area of low pressure develop down in South Florida. And after all of this crosses out into the Atlantic, the National Hurricane Center is just kind of highlighting this, saying, hey, we're watching it. They don't really think it's going to become anything tropical, but it is an area of low pressure, and it is going to bring some pretty significant winds to the East Coast. It's also bringing us a lot of much needed rain across the west central Florida region here in the Tampa Bay region. That's what we're seeing with all those cloud cover. Either way, it's not looking like if anything were to happen with it, it doesn't happen until it moves out into the Atlantic. Another area that we've been tracking on Tracking the Tropics really for the last week or so now is this area down in the Caribbean. We've been talking about this large scale area of low pressure down in the Caribbean. National Hurricane Center has highlighted it. They highlighted it after our episode last week, and they've brought that chance up to a medium chance. It's now at a 50% chance over the next 7 days as it moves off to the north and the east. This one likely staying to the south and the east of us here in the state of Florida. But what we're seeing happen are these areas of low pressure developing and kind of bringing us some moisture. And what we're going to see happen is kind of they're moving out into the Atlantic. But the area that's crossing the state today, not tropical because it has a front associated with it. I did talk about that a little bit this morning. It doesn't have a fully moisture-rich environment surrounding it. It doesn't have fully warm air surrounding the system either. That's why we're not really seeing that tropical development, even though it's an area of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico. Regardless, again, it's moving away, and we're going to have drastically different weather in the southeast as we head into the weekend. That system is going to continue to move out into the Atlantic, but some much needed rain expected for the west central Florida region. See, these are look at some of the rainfall totals from now until tomorrow evening. Friday evening, and you can see the bullseye there clear down in South Florida, everywhere south of I-4. Looks like we're going to see some of the higher rainfall totals with this system as it moves through. But again, some much needed rain, especially along our coast, Rebecca, Pinellas County, Sarasota, Manatee County. We are in an extreme drought, and I have that map here as well. It's our coastal counties, really. It's where we need the rain, and we are going to get some of that rain as we go into today and into tomorrow. Now, Jeff, you said it's been dry there. What is the drought situation looking like there?
Mostly for us, we're in the abnormally dry category. Basically, the whole area, our whole southeastern Virginia, eastern North Carolina, we're in the yellow color. There are some spots, though, that are in the moderate drought, and then we get the drought update coming out tomorrow. I bet the moderate drought will expand a bit more based on the fact that we just haven't seen any rain in the last couple of weeks. The last time it rained was on Halloween, and that was 500ths of an inch. So that was the wrong day for it to rain, and then that's the day where we had barely anything. But for the kind of zone in Florida, I was watching that because my mom lives down in Orlando. It looks like they're finally getting some rain, so that's good to see. Because when I talk to her on the phone, she'll say, "Hey, well, how much rain are we going to get?" Now I'll know. But with that storm system that we were watching off of the southeastern part of the United States, the area of yellow on this map here. Now we still are in hurricane season, as the viewers know. We have until the end of the month, and especially here in our part of Virginia. This time of year, we're still kind of holding our breath and we're looking to the left and the right because we're still in hurricane season. Now, when we look at years past, viewers that are from this part of area of Hampton Roads, southeastern Virginia, and also into the Outer Banks of North Carolina, we remember we had a storm back in 2009. It wasn't a tropical system. It faded away from that. It was now becoming a nor'easter, but it was a hurricane at one point. It was Ida back in 2009. It was a nor'easter by the time it came through us on November 11th, 12th of 2009. We had some of the highest tidal flooding we've ever seen from that storm system. So anything that forms in the Gulf, anything that forms near Florida this time of year, even if it isn't going to be tropical when it comes through, we always are watching these things really closely. Now, I saw your model that you showed, the Euro, keeps it offshore. So we're still holding our breath, but we're kind of letting ourselves exhale a little bit. So there it goes right there, staying offshore. We may get a little bit of nuisance tidal flooding, but the strongest winds, where the winds are shown by how many lines are closer together, those isobars, when you see a lot of them packed into your state, that means the winds are strong. And the winds in this case would be out of the north to northwest. That's by Sunday. Saturday and Friday, they could be more northeasterly, which could contribute to maybe some higher tides. But right now, I think we're looking okay.
That's some good news, but I guess at this point you guys are kind of just hoping for the rain, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I was thinking, man, if this thing hits us directly, we're going to get some good rainfall. I don't think this one will. There is another chance for some rain into next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, prior to Thanksgiving travel. So we might get something out of that. That's not a tropical system. That's more of just a frontal system moving through.
Yeah, but you did say that it is still very much hurricane season. We still have to kind of keep our guard on because we still do see tropical systems this time of year. But this is the areas that we do look to see these tropical systems develop if we see systems this time of year. Down in the Caribbean, that's where we have some of the warmest waters at this point. And then they tend to move off to the north and the east.
Yeah, I saw the water temperatures from the buoys around 85, 86 degrees down there. So great for vacationers, but
Yeah.
not for tropical development. That's still really warm.
Yeah, and those systems can spin up pretty quickly here. We have the available ocean energy, if you will. So this takes into account how deep those warm waters are. And it's still pretty high, obviously, down in the Caribbean, but it's not nearly as expansive as it has been, that extreme available ocean energy as it has been in the Caribbean. And just kind of looking off to the north, those colors go away very quickly. So as these systems move off to the north, they're not really tropical necessarily, but they still can pack a punch to the northeast. I mean, you guys deal with nor'easters all through the winter.
Yes, we do. And when we look at the map too of the ocean energy, and you mentioned how deep it is, everyone has to remember, well, if you have a hurricane or you have a tropical storm, and let's say you have winds, a hurricane, you have winds at 80 miles an hour sustained. So that's moving all of that water. So if you only have 80-degree water, 85-degree water that's only 3 feet deep, that water is going to be blown away. It's going to mix in with the cold water underneath, and it's not really going to have enough energy to sustain itself. But when we're seeing on the map here that deep water, we're talking really, really deep, several meters deep, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 meters deep of that warm water. So as the ocean gets mixed up, there's still extra warm water coming up. And that's the fuel for these tropical systems compared to the one that's off of Florida that has a front with it. Not quite the same, with being tropical characteristics and a warm core, but still one that we're going to watch. into the weekend ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just because it isn't necessarily tropical, Rebecca, we are still seeing those gusty winds out there today. And I know the East Coast is expecting some pretty strong winds as this system kind of strengthens as it moves away.
Yeah, my family's on the East Coast, and I was talking to them today. Those high tides are running much higher than normal. It's just rough and choppy out there, basically nor'easter-like conditions for them. And that's going to continue until about Wednesday or Thursday, it looks like.
Yeah, and I mean, even down in the southeast Florida region, we're talking Jupiter, West Palm Beach, Miami, they're expecting a really strong onshore wind heading into tonight and into tomorrow, as well as that system really begins to develop, and then those winds will relax and pull away. But, it's been a busy season so far. We've had something to talk about pretty much every single week here on Tracking the Tropics. I mean, we have gotten through almost all of these names. We've only got two left, Vince and Whitney. Jeff, what are your thoughts on hurricane season so far? We've kind of asked this to all of our featured meteorologists because it's been interesting to say the least.
It's been active, and I know we have a big surfing community in our area, so they've been loving at least some of the swells that we've been getting out of these. We haven't been impacted here in Hampton Roads. Too bad we had one storm, remnants of a storm come through. Wasn't a big issue. We did have a higher tornado threat that one night as it moved through, but we were okay from that. So this season, it's been really busy when we just look at the graphic here with two names left. I don't believe we'll make it to the supplemental names for this year, but it's close though, with Vince and Whitney, the two storms remaining on that chart. It seems probably plausible we'll see Vince. I don't know about Whitney yet, but that's what we've seen so far. It's been active, and every year we're getting basically we're completing two columns on these charts, and we're always heading into that third column of those list of names. So we'll see what happens into next season, but this one's been active so far.
Yeah, definitely active in terms of, the National Hurricane Center's average standards. They put out a forecast early in the year. They put out a forecast, an updated forecast in August, and both times they said it was going to be above average, and a lot of folks, a lot of meteorologists, we said, well, maybe is it? We have an El Nino. It's expected to be strong, but sure enough, we've seen, name after name be checked off the list. 20 storms so far, 19 named storms there, but that puts us right dead center in that NOAA forecast that came out in August. So they did a really good job this year at predicting the number of storms.
Yeah, they did. And I have to give a shout out to the GFS model too, because that's been doing a pretty good job. I don't know if you call it this the same way when you look at the 14, 15, 16-day outlook. I call it model fantasy land, that far out into the future. And it's actually picked up on some of these storms far out in the future, like this one that's coming not so much up the East Coast, but through the ocean, missing the East Coast. It did see this a week ago, had it more so over the coastline, but at least saw something for that kind of weekend that we have coming up. So it's been doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I don't like to pick on the GFS too much. I have a soft spot for it. It has its perks, and the Euro does well sometimes as well. But I think the GFS has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years, and I don't discount it at all. I mean, yes, the Euro, Rebecca, has its perks, and it does good sometimes. But I definitely like to look at both of them. GFS hasn't had nearly as many GFS-icanes is what we call them, that 16-day outlook this year. So that's good, but it did pick up on this system.
Yeah, and so I feel like the GFS has gotten really strong over the past 5 to 6 years. We've seen some improvements with it, and so it's really become less. When I feel like 10 or 15 years ago, you almost just discounted some of the stuff that came out of the GFS, and now you can't anymore because it's just gotten so good.
Yeah, it really has pinpointed that broad area of low pressure over the past really month or so down in the Caribbean. And once in a while it would spin something up, but it definitely was a lot more consistent with this system that we're seeing down in the Central Caribbean now.
And the good news
is, especially with the dry stretch of weather we've been having here for the last 31 days, when we see something that far out in the models in model fantasy land, maybe your dreams will come true.
Yeah.
Well, no, we don't want to be like that, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely. And I want to remind anyone watching, this is an interactive broadcast. If you use the hashtag hashtag Hey Rebecca, hashtag Hey Amanda, or hashtag Hey Jeff. We'll be able to see your question like this one that's just come in. And so we can display those questions and answer them here. And so the first question rolling in, it's hashtag Hey Rebecca, but I'm going to toss the answer over to Amanda since I'm kind of driving here. Hashtag Hey Rebecca, how much rain for Clearwater?
Yeah, our coastal spots, especially Pinellas County, Sarasota, Manatee County, you guys are in that extreme drought and you are looking for the rain. So far in Clearwater, between yesterday, last night, and then today, we've seen anywhere between a half an inch and an inch of rain, but we are talking about the possibility of more rain between the next 36 hours. We're looking at even more rainfall, possibly another half an inch to an inch, with some areas seeing a little bit more than that. That's kind of a broad kind of blanket of rain that I'm hoping everyone will get. And then we'll see some spots that have much higher totals than that, possibly between 2 and 3 inches.
It's nice to be here with you guys because I feel like you're my people. I got so excited when I got caught in the rain yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, finally.
I know. Well, our roads in general, Jeff, you can relate to this. They just need washed off because they get really slick when this first rain comes through, but after when we haven't had a lot of rain.
Yeah, and I know for my neighbors especially and everyone around this area, you can still see the leaves on the trees.
Yeah,
They're
it's
actually
very
starting
green.
to come down now. So
Oh, okay.
I just did a whole deal in the backyard 30 minutes ago before the broadcast, cleaning up the leaves. I know you can't see the work that I did, but it's been nice that it's been dry to actually get the leaves up. Otherwise, it's trying to rake cement. So it's been nice.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, so we are, still tracking these two areas of possible development. Again, as we if you're just joining us on tracking the tropics, we do have 2 areas being highlighted by the National Hurricane Center. We're talking about the unsettled pattern over the southeast. It was a system that kind of developed over Texas, this area of low pressure across the Gulf of Mexico. It's not a tropical area of low pressure, but, the National Hurricane Center is looking at it as it moves into the Atlantic. Then we're watching that Central Caribbean area as well. It has a medium chance of development. That chance actually has come down over the past couple of days, so that's some good news. But both of these systems going to kind of merge and move out into the Atlantic, so that's some good news here. But still very much hurricane season, so we're going to be watching this for the next couple of weeks. We have 2 more regularly scheduled episodes on Wednesdays at 12:30, and then obviously if we see any development afterward, which is possible. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but it is possible. Then we would come back on here on Tracking the Tropics. But for now, I'm not too concerned about these for at least the United States. The Central Caribbean islands here, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, you guys Cuba even should be watching for some heavy rainfall as that second system, that southern system kind of crosses. Could see some heavy rainfall as that moves through. But otherwise, yeah, I'm happy that hurricane season has been a little bit quieter just over the past 2 weeks or so.
It has been nice. And just looking at the map here too, it does look very similar to a typical November with fronts coming across the United States, keeping these things more out to sea. We're looking pretty good at the towards the end of the season with maybe a few more things popping up. But right now, things are trending pretty nicely. And then when we look at the long range models too, going into the end of November and also going into December, it just looks likely that the cold air just locks in across most of the country, keeping things away. Now for Florida, well, you're in a different kind of climate than we are, but for most of the United States, I think we're looking okay for the rest of this hurricane season. So maybe we can pour the gasoline out of the generator here pretty soon.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jeff. Yeah, some of those long range models might develop something out in the central Atlantic, but overall across the United States, the fronts that we've had come through, they've been on the stronger side, and they just kind of sweep everything out to sea, and that's what we like to see this time of year.
Yeah, maybe we can get a front to come down into Tampa, Clearwater area. You guys can get some fresh snow this winter.
Yeah. We don't want that. Rebecca and I are very much warm weather people. I don't mind the rain once in a while, but.
And not to mention our snow forecasting skills are rusty, to say it best.
Yeah. We'll need to call you down here to come help us with that.
Yeah, and on average here, we only get 6 inches of snow. I'm from Minnesota, though, so I have the understanding of snow. I still have 2 shovels in my shed. I'm ready to go. But
it's an automatic PhD in snow forecasting to be from Minnesota.
Yeah.
So you're like 6 inches. Bring it on.
Yeah, that's nothing. Yeah, that's just another day.
Yeah, true.
Well, we don't have any more questions coming in, so I'm going to take that as a sign that everyone else is just as fatigued with hurricane season as we are.
I completely agree with that statement, Rebecca. So I think that's going to do it for this edition of Tracking the Tropics. Again, we are live every Wednesday for the rest of hurricane season. We have 2 more regularly scheduled episodes. Of course, if we see any kind of development that is worth watching, we'll hop back on here. But for now, I think that's going to do it. You can always watch our past episodes on trackingthetropics.tv. You can also listen to them on your favorite podcast streaming service. We've talked about some interesting things this hurricane season, to say the least. El Nino, the record warm water temperatures. We've talked about hurricane hacks, all the things. So it's been nice to have a couple of quiet episodes here. But thank you, Rebecca, obviously, for always joining us. And thank you to our featured meteorologist, Jeff Edmondson, joining us from Virginia today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It was fun.
All right. We'll see everybody next week on Wednesday.
Find Tracking the Tropics on these platforms. And for storm updates, the latest models, and helpful resources, visit trackingthetropics.tv.